What's happening, intermediate guitar? Ben here with our last lesson on the shapes of the pentatonic scale. Last week we had flipped our keys into E minor, so we'll continue on that path. I figured we'll do a recap. We'll talk about position 5, its scale degrees, and try to keep this a nice tight lesson. Next week, I'd really like to get into how we combine some of these box shapes, how we move, a little more horizontal than vertical down the neck. And be able to go from one side to the other, just to get a little more fluent and moving in between these boxes. With that being said, we'll do our recap real quick. We'll move into position 5. So, recap, position 1 for E minor. On our low E string, we're going to go open string, 3rd fret. A is open to the 2nd fret. D, open to the 2nd fret. G, open to the 2nd fret. B, open to the 3rd fret. And finally the high E, open to the 3rd fret. Okay? Second position, we're going to, remember we have to use our root note down here at the base of position 1. So we're going to go open, 3rd fret, 5th fret. Okay? And then from the 5th fret to the 2nd fret on the A string, 5th fret, 2nd fret, 5th fret, 2nd fret, 4th fret, 3rd fret, 5th fret, 3rd fret, 5th fret. Position 3, still utilizing our root note on the low E, open, 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 4th fret, 7th fret, 5th fret, 8th fret, 5th fret to the 7th fret. Okay? Then we had our position 4, which if we wanted to continue, which we might as well just to kind of re-emphasize. Taking that root note down there at the bottom, open, 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 10th fret. It's going to be 7th fret to the 10th fret on the A, 7th fret to the 9th fret, 7th fret to the 9th fret, 8th fret to the 10th fret, 7th fret to the 9th fret, the 10th fret. Going crazy here. That's position 1, 2, 3, 4. We are on position 5 today. Really awesome thing about position 5 is its location and proximity to position 1. Since we know that position 1 is merely in the same spot, just 12 frets up higher, that's our octave change, same shape. Right? What's really cool about this one is you can, if you'd like, for position 5, you can do the whole rigmarole of starting down here at the base to get up to it, or we can steal the root note from the octave, which is what we're going to do now. Getting into position 5, we'll start with the scale shape, then we'll talk about the scale degrees, and do a brief rundown of what I would do to practice that particular shape, and then we'll move forward. Position 5, once again, our root note is going to be a shared root note. You could get this one down here, but that doesn't seem very economical to have to travel all the way up when you're just trying to get to this root note here. We're going to start with the 12th fret on the low E string for this. Once again, this is an E minor, right? So 12th fret on the low E, we go to the 10th fret on the A string to the 12th fret, okay? Then we go from the 9th fret to the 12th fret, 9th fret, G string to the 12th fret, And then on the B string, we have the 10th fret to the 12th fret. And on the high E string, the 10th fret to the 12th fret. Which takes us from that root to root position. We've made it all full circle. We have all of our shapes now. Our scale degrees for this shape, super easy to count out. Starting off with our root note here, which, by the way, just to touch on it, if we wanted to grab that 7th, it's literally right behind it. So if you were, say, making your way down, it's right there on that 10th fret low E string. The only reason why we don't start there is that would change the tonality of our scale. So we have the 1, that's our root note down there on the 12th fret low E string. The 10th fret on the A string, that is our minor third, that's that minor tonality. 12th fret on the A string, that is our 4th. 9th fret on the, the D string, that's gonna be our 5th, okay? Moving up to the 12th fret, D string, that's our 7th. 9th fret on our G string, that's our root again. From the 9th fret to the 12th fret on the G string, our minor third. Moving up, 10th fret on the B string, that's our 4th. 12th fret on the B string, our 5th. 10th fret on the high E string, our 7th. And then finally back to 12th fret on the high E string, back to our root. Okay. Now, just to preface this too, the reason why I like to talk about these scale degrees is to get you guys thinking about these scales in terms of their scale degrees. It makes it super easy if I were to say, you know, what key would this be in? What chord would you play over it? Well, a chord is a 1, a 3, and a 5. So if I find the 1, the 3, and the 5, and turn it into a triad, we have an E minor chord there, right? So you always want to think about scales in terms of their scale degrees. Using numbers. Notes are really handy, specifically on instruments like a piano, because there's so many different places to play the same exact thing on a guitar. It's why we always kind of relegate ourselves into these patterns. So I like to think of them in terms of numbers. It helps me a little bit better. And then I just kind of know what those notes are. After a long enough time, you start recognizing these notes. Especially if you've done the exercise where that's A, B, C, D, E, right? F, G, A. The scale degrees, super duper helpful, especially once you start really kind of piecing these in, being able to pick those triads out and being able to apply them. Nice practice for all of these shapes now that you have all of your pattern. I think I touched on this in the past, but we'll touch on it again because it is the right way to practice. Once you've gotten good at moving through each position, straight up and down, you know. Oh my goodness. Once you've gotten good at doing that, which I am so clearly not warmed up right now, we really want to start moving into more musical methods of practicing those, moving in note groupings of 3, note groupings of 4, moving in broken thirds, which is a little tougher on the pentatonic side of things, but broken fourths is a really good one to start for pentatonics, broken fifths, and that's just, you know, let's take that particular scale. Oops. It's basically moving from my 1 to my 4th. So if that's my 1, that's my minor third, and that's my 4th. So for each note, you move to its 4th. And do it both directions. I would try to do that for each one. Note groupings of 4. I would go 1, 2, 3, 4. Start on the next note. 1, 2, 3, 4. Start on the next note. 1, 2, 3, 4. They sound very useful, they sound very musical, they sound like licks. And that's why we practice those, because that's stuff that we will use whenever we're playing. We don't want to be going down a pentatonic scale. That's not how we play. We want to be practicing licks and things that we're going to use. So those would be my recommendations. In the beginning, when you're just kind of coming to grips and internalizing these scale shapes, I would start down 1, slide over, maybe come down 2, go down 3, come back up on 4, go down on 5. Try to mix and match. Try to create some distance sometimes too. I know whenever you're very first internalizing it, it's a-okay to just go straight up and down and just get them solved. I always like to talk to my students and think of them as rooms in a house, right? And we're just moving through each room. Later on, I like to talk about how each room is comprised of 2 walls. And it's better to think about the walls than the room itself. And what I mean by that is, for position 1, it's super easy. Here's this wall. Super easy. But then you think about the 2 walls in the adjacent rooms, and this one's going to be, and then it just becomes the idea of, well, you take those 2 walls and make a room, right? It makes it a little bit easier than trying to remember all of that. And as a result, you start being able to break things up a little bit. If you ever look at like a big scale chart that has all the notes on it, it can be super intimidating and overwhelming. So trying to break it down into the sum of its parts definitely helps in that regard. Definitely practice this up. Think of all the different ways that you can practice this shape. Next week, I'd really like to get into talking about how we move in between these rooms. If I'm soloing, I don't want to be just stuck in one shape. I want to be able to kind of move being able to move in between all of these shapes, and what I think about when I'm doing that, and give you kind of some hints and tips on what you can be thinking about. So hopefully making this a lot more fluid in your playing. It gives you a lot of extra freedom, but more importantly, it gives you access to certain things that, position 1 might not have available to it, whereas maybe position, 2 has something cool. Right? That very... what is that, Layla, I think? Anyway, I digress. Position 1 might not have something that's quite as easily accessible, say position 2 or 3 or etc. And things to think about. More importantly, just making it easier for us to move horizontally than vertically. Everybody usually practices vertically, but not many people get the horizontal axis in there. Anyway, if you enjoyed this sort of content, I'll leave a link to our newsletter down in the comments where you can find a lot more stuff like this. Here fairly soon, we're going to have some things launching for you guys. I'm super proud, super excited for us. I'll give you guys some more details on that later. I'm Ben with Intermediate Guitar. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Keep it loud. Toodles, y'all.